Hello, all, and welcome to the Fantasy and Sci-Fi Fanatics podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Coolbaugh. Today, having a very special returning guest, Nicholas W. Fuller. Nicholas, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very good. How are you, Daniel?
Oh, excellent, excellent. Glad we could finally do this. If you guys don't know, Nicholas and I both have children. Enough said.
Right? Yeah.
Uh, I think that's all needs to be said, right, Nicholas? Yeah, my son is not very conducive lately to trying to get interviews done, so I'm trying to be as flexible as possible. So I appreciate you being flexible too, Nicholas. Just want to remind our viewers or listeners that don't forget to subscribe to this podcast and Nicholas's as well. The link's down in the description below, so please take a moment to do that. We'd both appreciate it. Nicholas, how's it going?
Going good, man. It's going good. Today was a good day with the kids, Like
Yeah.
yesterday I was on the struggle bus getting my daughter down, but today, like, she was helping to cook dinner and then she went and played with the pool, and when it was time for bedtime, she was like, and done. And that was really nice. Things are going pretty smooth today. Appreciate the shout out from my podcast too. And I've had
Yeah, yeah,
Daniel
for
on the
sure.
show. Come and check out my episode with Daniel. It was good
Oh yeah,
time.
we had fun. Yeah, yeah, I like that one. Oh yeah, I'll put that link down below too. I totally forgot about that. I always forget podcasts that I'm on. Like, like Herman and I talk about it all the time, and then like when I interviewed him and I was like talking about it, he goes, "Yeah, don't forget it. Like I had you on mine too twice." I was like, "That's right." I was like, for some reason, it's like a wall comes up, and I'm like singular in purpose or something. I don't know.
That's funny.
Um, it's funny. So it's like so your daughter and my son both really struggled yesterday. So
All
that's
right.
really funny.
I'm glad
Yeah.
today's a little smoother.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so glad. I just had a feeling with the Monday,
Mhm.
when we rescheduled. I was like, I'm just gonna say Thursday. My kid usually does better on Thursdays, so I'm like, I'm just gonna try. So last night I was literally like thinking to myself as like 10:55 rolled around and he was just raging and whatever. I was like, thank God we weren't supposed to meet tonight because it'd be
Right.
Thursday anyway. And then he just like conked out, but.
Right.
Yeah, so we're here to talk about you and your book, which I'm so thrilled about. So if you guys, like Nicholas said, if you go and check out, our joint interview on Nicholas's channel, you'll be able to see where we both were talking about our current projects, things like that. And I felt like that was a really good discussion. I learned a lot from you and what your perspective was, and it was really cool. That's why I like listening to, and talking to different podcast hosts in particular who
Mm.
are also, it's like you, me, Herman, and Adrian are just in a little bit different boat, right? And
Right.
talking to a lot of people, I feel like it gives you different insights. And I know I do weird stuff, and I'm about to do weird stuff, and like everybody's like, "Why are you doing that?" I'm like, "Oh, like I talk to a bunch of people, and it just seems like maybe this will work, and maybe if not for other people, at least for me." And I
Yeah.
just want to try it, in Indie Sphere. So
Right.
I thought that was a really good chat that we had. But do you mind just telling our audience on maybe just a little bit about your writing experience, and your thought process, and just what's your writing journey been like up until this point?
Boy. Okay. All right. Well, so I'm gonna have an upcoming release that's called Shattered. I kind of half jokingly refer to this as my second debut because I did write and self-publish a book back in like 2012. So that was a hot minute ago. In fact, take a look at this. If you're watching the video, you can see this really
Ooh,
terrible
cool.
cover, right? Literally generated by like Amazon's cover generator that they had at the time. Yeah, it's called Leader of the Tribe, and that one's like a historical fantasy coming of age. But
Oh, that's cool.
it should have been a trunk book, and now it is a trunk book. It was a really like a book that I wrote for me, and like which was great. But now I'm like, actually, I should maybe write a few books for readers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, right. So that's yeah, that kind of helped me get back on the writing horse lately. Again, upcoming novella is called Shattered. That one is a prelude to a trilogy of full-length novels. It's a novella, around like 25,000 words. Um, nice, easy read. Kind of my pitch is that it's the story of doing the right thing and the consequences of those actions. It's also the story of Koei Taj, a master sergeant in the Sorrento Royal Senate Guardians, and his struggle to keep his planet safe. Again, it's a prelude for a planned trilogy of novels. It's science fantasy with a lot of fun action. In this novella, there's some political intrigue as well. Some of that gets a little kind of toned down, especially in novel one, but the action is definitely still there. And eventually in the trilogy, there's going to be some progression fantasy elements. it takes a little bit to kind of get to that, but like this novella is kind of explaining like how that even comes to be. Um, the full series is called Sanguine Stars, and my pitch for the series overall is I try to take some of the elements that I liked from Cradle by Will White, which we're talking about.
Yeah.
Also with like a bit of just some nice dashes of Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinneman, which is definitely my current obsession. Mix in a little bit of like setting and vibes inspo from like the Mandalorian TV show, and then put them all in a room and like in my head with some Marvin Gaye and like the sexy baby that comes out from Oliver and Franklin.
That's awesome. That's an amazing description. I got to be honest. I know you haven't revealed the cover yet, but I got to see it. Off of our couple chats about it, both on podcast and privately, like I was really excited right from the start to hear about, like just like the basic concept idea and stuff. But I was just talking to CT Phipps about this. We were talking about like reviews and stars and
Mhm.
stuff on Amazon. I go, I don't look at any of that crap. I'm like, I look at your cover, your title. You know what I mean? I
Yeah,
love the
yeah,
visual. I love the title, by the way. So I'll check, and then I'm like, love the blurb. So you know what I mean? Or like what it's about. Like those are the things I look at. Like I don't care about anything else.
yeah,
It could be 2.5. It could be 1.5 out of 5. I'm like, if
yeah,
you have me there, and then I'll read chapter one. If you got me hooked there, or the
yeah,
prelude or whatever prologue, I'm like, cool, I'm done. You
yeah,
got me. And I'm gonna read your book.
yeah.
I thought that was really it was funny that we just had that talk earlier, and I was thinking of your book. I was like, oh yeah, check. I'm really, 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 really excited about this release for you. So can't
Thank you,
wait
thank you.
to help you, once we get a little closer, to when it's time.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's super cool. To me, I'm just like there were so many things you just said there where I'm just like, okay, if you guys in the audience don't like those things, you're probably in the wrong podcast, to be honest. Like whatever Nicholas just said, you should be like, okay, like that's my thing.
That's
I actually just started Dungeon Carl Crawler,
oh,
like book one, literally today, because
wow, okay.
it's on the bookmark list. Like I
Yeah.
have like 8 books I'm halfway through because I've been doing half Kindle and half Audible, and
Oh, okay.
I just haven't had time to finish anything. So
Sure, sure, sure.
I needed one more for the month to get like the bookmark or whatever, and that was on the list for editors picks for summer read or whatever, which is
Uh-huh.
one of the things. And I was like, I have it. I've been meaning to, do it for a while, and everybody's been talking about, new, release and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Are you reading on Kindle or are you doing the audio for it?
I actually just I've been doing half and half. Usually I'll do
Okay,
like in the
okay.
car, I'll do
Yeah, yeah.
like 2 or 3 chapters. I don't have that long of a commute now, but like when I pick up my son, it usually takes like 40 minutes now with traffic.
Mm-hmm.
We're in college town and kids are leaving like soon and
Sure.
stuff.
I get
It's just
that.
been congested, right? So I got to listen to it, and that's the thing is I really enjoy. I tell people they're like, "Oh, you do half and half." I'm like, it's really like I love the Dresden Files. Like James does an amazing job, right? And Marcin and stuff, and I've always really liked him. And I don't know, I love listening to his voice, and then I get
Yeah,
into the story, and then I just fly from there. That's how I did
yeah.
Pierce Brown's Red Rising. It was a little bit longer, in terms of audio and
Yep.
stuff, but
Yep.
I love Brandon Sanderson's like Way of Kings, and
Sure.
we're on like book 3 right now. We like just started Oathbringer, and I love the narrators, both
Yep.
the guy and the girl that they have. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's gotten me to read more, if that makes sense,
Yeah,
because I don't
yeah.
hit those
No,
little patches.
for sure.
Yeah, because it's like I don't know. Yeah, and like I really like the narrator,
Oh
like
my
Jeff
gosh.
or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah,
Great
Jeff
Dungeon Crawler.
Hayes, man,
Oh my
he's
God,
so
so good.
yeah. Like so, I've read like some books and some parts of Dungeon Crawler Carl, and it reads well. It reads great, and he even does humor well on the page, which is not easy. But of course, like the book is very funny, and in audio, you have a few more tools because you can do like
Yep,
inflection and you can create
yep,
pauses and timing. Oh my gosh, Jeff Hayes' delivery of Dungeon Crawler Carl is
so good.
so good. And like his voices for every it's amazing too. You listen to like he'll do Carl and then he'll switch like to Donut
Yep,
and
yep,
you're
yep.
like, wait, this is the same person? How is that happening? It's so good. There's like
Wow,
he has some clips online too of like him like live reading some parts of the it,
that's
oh,
cool. I
it's
didn't
it,
know that.
it's
That's awesome.
amazing seeing him do like the God.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that out. I know like Amy and Aaron like moving ahead on here. They're voice actors and like they do that quite a bit on like TikTok and stuff. I love watching Amy's like she does such a good job. Uh, and like she does like other acting too, right? In person
Mhm.
on stage and stuff. build things like that. But yeah, it's always awesome when you can find like a really good narrator that gets into
Yeah.
it. I love
Yeah.
seeing them on TikTok. I actually just
Yeah.
got my TikTok back, guys. So
Nice.
finally code was being weird or something. So I actually got it like 2 nights ago. So I've been like trying to be like, I'm back. All my like book talk
Yeah.
friends. Yeah, but I love Jeff. He does a really, really good job. I love Jeff and Travis, and then James Ashton are like some of my favorites.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Travis is so good. Travis is amazing. Like I think Travis like is maybe like half elf or something secretly because like I mean he was a
Yeah.
successful game developer and then he
Yep.
transitioned into audiobooks and he's just fantastic on it. Then just kind of on a whim he decides to write a book and it becomes a New York Times bestseller. And like he narrates his own audiobook and I don't know if you've listened to Legends and Lattes but there's a part where he even sings and he's pretty good singing and I'm
Oh, I
like
haven't gotten to the singing part yet.
I was like, you, sir, you, I think are, there's something, there's some magic at work here for
Yeah.
sure.
Oh, that's funny. I told him at one point though, when well, I think because I had gotten done with because I hadn't listened to Cradle yet, and then I started to. Well, like I
Yeah,
had read, like the books, but
yeah,
then I was like, oh, I'm gonna do like a recap for the first five to get caught up. So I was like listening to them to
yeah.
review, and at one point I don't know, he said something on Twitter or whatever, and I just was like, I was like, simmer down, save some talent for the rest of us,
Right,
in
right,
one sphere.
right. That
Yeah.
man, he just,
Oh,
yeah,
that's
everything he
funny.
touches is so good.
Yeah.
What's this, so just to run with this for a minute, and I'm gonna ask a question because I can't help myself because I'm using it. So you've been listening, or you have listened to Cradle with Travis Baldy. Who's your favorite like voice that he does in Cradle? I know who mine is.
Man, that's really hard.
Yeah,
I don't know if I can pick in that book. That's hard. I was just
fair.
saying, and Dao Wong's like like A Thousand Lee, like
Hmm.
I like definitely like Wu Ying, like the main character.
Sure.
It would be my favorite there. But yeah, I don't know. That's the thing is like Travis is a chameleon too. Like,
Yeah.
he you know what I mean? Like it's
Yes.
like you
No.
listen to A Thousand Lee with Tao Wong, and then you listen to, Warwick's Cradle, and you're like, is this the same person? Like,
I
and like
love
maybe the
his.
narration, but not the
I,
characters. Like,
yeah. Right. I love his voice for Orthos though. Orthos, the purple
oh,
dragon.
no, yeah, yeah,
Really
yeah,
good.
yep, yep.
Yeah.
But I also like, I don't know if I could pick on that one. Yeah,
Yeah.
but that was actually it's funny they mentioned that. Just saying because like that thought did occur to me when I was listening to book two recently.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I really like Wu Ying's like I don't know. I don't know what it is about it. I
Sure.
like him, like how he does the voice and inflection
Hmm.
and stuff. But yeah, I was thinking I can't pick a favorite one in Cradle for some reason.
It's
I
fair.
don't know. I think he does all of them super, super well.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say the book, but there have been some books that I've absolutely loved on Kindle,
Hmm.
but I did not enjoy the female characters and how they were done on
Hmm.
Audible. For like some books I've read within the last couple years. I love the series. Flew
Hmm.
through it in like very very quick time. For any time where I read. But
Hmm.
like I had to stop listening to Audible because it just like made me angry. I
Right.
was like,
Right.
this is not how female characters are supposed to sound. And I think it was just more of like a pro some sort of production error or something. I don't know. Someone at some point should have been like, "Is this how women sound?" Like, I don't know. It just kept pulling me out of the book.
Yeah. Yeah.
So finally, I was like, "I'm just gonna read Kindle," and I did, and I absolutely loved the series. But it was literally like book four, like I think it was like halfway between book one and two, or it was like I was like probably like halfway through book two, and I was just like, I can't do the
Yeah.
Audible anymore. I did a few chapters and stuff. Like literally it was like they got divided up into characters, so it was literally like if it was the male characters, I would listen to it in the car or whatever, and I was on
Yeah.
vacation time, and then I would literally read all the female parts, like
That's so funny.
chapters,
Yeah. Yeah.
like on Kindle, yeah, because it just threw me out. But that was like
Yeah.
before. I don't think people remember that Dresden Files. That actually there was an audio narrator before James.
Hmm.
I actually listened to that original narrator. I have to look it up at some point, but I listened to that narrator when they first had him for like book one or whatever, and he was atrocious.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I actually didn't read the books for like quite a
Yeah.
while. I was like, oh, I don't like these books, but it turns out I just
Yeah.
didn't like the narrator.
Right.
So
Right.
I had a free credit, and then luckily James had started. My friend goes, dude, totally different. I'm like, okay, so I tried it,
Right.
and I was like, oh. I had actually read the Dresden Files, like book 6 or 7. I did the same thing with
Nice.
Audible. I was like, oh, I'll just try and get caught back up, with,
Yeah, yeah.
and then I like flew through them because I loved him
Nice.
as a narrator. Yeah,
There you
Jeff's
go.
amazing. I'm really excited. I don't know why I didn't ever put the two and two together. I don't
Sure.
know. Too many books, right? But as soon as I heard Jeff's voice this morning, I was like, oh yeah, this is gonna be a good book.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. No, those books are so. Those books are like it's amazing because they start out like the Dan Carl books start out kind of so silly, and just wild, and the premise is nuts. But as it develops, like the character work that Matt Didman does is so good, and the character and the story overall, there's like this big overarching story that just grows and grows and grows with each book, and it gets so much better. And by like book 5, I'm like, wait a minute, am I like we started off with this silliness, but
Yeah,
am I
yeah,
am I crying now? Did you do that? How did you do that? Like, it's so good.
yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome.
he's done
I
amazing.
feel like a lot of people are like not character study, but just like, like Matt, like just thinking like how were you able to do this? It's funny around here because there's like 2 writing classes. I don't know if they're like ones at Cornell or what, but the talk has been that they're using Matt's books like
Oh
for
wow,
like the course. And there's another one like online. We have like 5 colleges like
sure,
within
sure.
a 50-mile radius here, and then 2 community colleges. So it's kind of wild. But I talked to another student. I was like, "Oh, what are you doing?" He's like, "Oh, I'm taking a writing course." I'm like, "Oh, it's cool." He's like, "Yeah, it's online." He goes, "I'm pretty sure we're reading Dungeon Crawler Carl." I was like, what? I was like,
That is wild.
"Sign up for the class this
Yeah,
summer."
yeah. Same.
Yeah, tell my wife I'll be gone twice a week for this, really important class I'm
It's
taking.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
If she only knew, right? Like,
Yeah, that's
it's
funny.
a good thing she stopped watching this podcast. She'd know my plans.
Yeah. I don't
She's
think my
pretty
wife
busy
has
now.
ever watched my podcast. Like, yeah, she keeps her plate pretty full, but
That's funny. Yeah, my friend does. Thank you, Dan. But yeah, my wife, she's like, I think after like the first one, she's like, "Oh, this is great. Keep doing it."
good
Like,
job. I'm very proud of you. I can do something else. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
She's like, "I'm just so busy." So I get it. Yeah, I don't
But
want it.
yeah, I
She
mean, our
likes to.
spouses get enough of us anyway, right? Like, yeah, yeah.
She always tell me I'm like, "I work now." She's like, "You're just going to hang out with your friends and talk about books." I was like, "That is facts."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make this into a very lucrative career. It has to
Yeah.
start somewhere, you know? Yeah.
I told her, I was like, we're only like 399 subscribers away from hitting 1K. I was like, then we're only like 3 million short hours
Yeah.
from making $2 on this YouTube channel.
We're right there, baby. We're right
We're
there.
so close. One of these days, I'll buy you a cup of coffee from it. It's
It's gonna all be worth it when you're drinking that latte, you know?
getting that stuff. Finally get Starbucks again, once you can afford it. So that's
Oh man.
awesome.
Yeah.
But so you mentioned, like the writing bug, right? Like I know for
Mm,
me, I'm just curious, like, because I took a break too, and
sure.
had stupid school like over and over again. I had to do like a master's, and then State was like, "We don't like that. We want you to do another one," so I did another one. So I definitely took a break, But for me, it's always like when I read something that's just like awesome. Like right now,
Go.
I did not look at the author because I just love the original Valiant comic, The Eternal Warrior. And it's
Hmm.
like this guy from like ancient Sumeria is like essentially, I don't want to give it away to anybody, but Valiant just came out with a paperback book based off of the comic book series. So I actually just started it earlier today. And I'm like, God, this is what got me into urban fantasy, And this is what made me want to write urban fantasy was actually the Eternal Warrior like comics. And then there was a couple other ones like Shadow Man, Ninjak, things like that. So for me, I know it's as soon as I read something, or sometimes if I watch something, right, where I'm just like, God, that was so flipping cool. Like it gives me the bug again. So I'm just
Mm,
curious, like, what kind of bit you and gave you the bug again from, your first trunk novel or baby
yeah.
book to now,
Yeah.
Shattered. Like, I don't know. I'm always interested in people's stories that way. So,
Sure. Yeah. Actually, my daughter being born. So
oh,
my
nice.
daughter is 4 now, recently turned 4, and like when she was brand new newborn, she wanted to be held all the time to sleep, as kids do, right? And I didn't want to sit there and count sheep, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I started getting my Kindle more and more and more, and I was able to kind of flip the pages, hold my daughter with one hand and flip
I
the pages
get
with
it.
the other, right?
Yeah.
And like the more I was reading, the more I was like, yeah, this is good. I love it. I got some ideas too. And like I kind of dusted off another idea I had that had sort of been languishing in purgatory for a long time. Wasn't Shattered. That's some different work in progress that I do want to get back to, but I had to back burner it because I couldn't figure out how to make part of it work. Uh,
I feel ya.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I got some ideas that'll happen someday. But yeah, and then as it was kind of getting to that, and then the big difference too that's been so nice now is when I wrote that other book, I was just completely isolated. Also, again, I published in like 2012, and like at the time, like kind of indie as it exists now was still very
Yeah,
newish, right?
totally. Yep.
So, I didn't know indie authors. I didn't know any community. I had some idea that this was starting to happen and like you could go publish on Kindle and you could get a book printed on CreateSpace at the time, and all this but like I didn't know anyone doing it. Now though, I was like, okay, I want to get into this and I want to do this with other people, So first I mean, I was starting to kind of reach out with other people, but then I got and find some friends online, but I got on my local subreddit, my Wilmington, North Carolina subreddit, and I was like, hey, I just checked out the Brandon Sanderson lecture videos, and I think those are
Oh,
really
yeah.
cool. And then we want to get together and like talk writing and like talk about those videos and like that sort of thing. So I got an in-person writing group that's been getting together every week, and they've become like a great critique group that's definitely like made me a better writer. We've got like our one resident high school teacher who's our grammar Nazi, it's perfect. We need
Yeah,
that.
I do. Yeah. That's my
Right.
co-teacher.
Yeah, yeah, right. No, it's a great group. And then like I was getting more and more involved online, started doing my own like interview show where I've talked with tons of authors and I absolutely love being able to connect that way. And then that got me kind of like connected with other folks. Bo Kelly from SFF
Oh,
Insiders Group was
that
like,
was
"Hey, you
awesome.
want to come get involved with like our Discord?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then Adrian reached out to me wanting to be on my show, and he was starting to launch Mushroom Blues, and we started talking a little bit. And then he had this was a part of a small group of other authors called the Break-ins. That was just a bunch of like indies that are kind of breaking in at the same time. So they've been like an excellent community where, we're able to kind of lament about some of the challenges, but also cheer each other on and like support each other. So and just like the community is so much makes the whole process better, and I
Yeah.
think has helped me stick through some of the harder parts and get more excited about the more fun parts.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. No, I get you. Like that's like Herman and I chat
Yeah,
quite often. Like I'll shoot Adrian stuff, every so often, just be like,
yeah.
like I said something a while back. I was like, "How's it going?" It's like, "Yeah, pretty good." I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "I can't figure this now novella crap out."
Mm,
It's like I'm just like burnt out. He's like, "No, I get
yeah,
it." And sometimes you just have to be able to communicate with other people, right?
right.
It's a lonely profession, and it doesn't have to be. So, yeah, I
That's
I
the thing.
totally
I
get
mean,
it.
and like the more people you talk to, especially at least like in the indie SFF space, everyone just wants to help each other out, right? And
Yeah,
everyone just
yeah,
wants more good books. So everyone's like, yeah,
yeah,
man, like, everyone's so encouraging and so welcoming and so forthcoming with any knowledge and help and guidance.
yeah, yeah. No, it's totally true. I've emailed, like I've like talked on Twitter or Facebook with like Forgotten Realms authors, like I had Richard Lee Byers on here. Can't wait to have him back. He was it was like one of my icons, right, from
Yeah.
Forgotten Realms. Like one of the four main authors where I read and I was like years ago and I was like, I have to write now. I told him
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I got to tell one of my writing heroes, like, you maybe want to write, like
That's awesome.
yeah, it was just cool. But yeah, like I talked to Paul S. Kemp. He actually kept me years ago from taking a Vanity Press deal. He was like, this thing sucks, don't do
Mm,
it. So he saved me. So thank you, Paul. Always
yeah.
give him credit for that. And then,
Yeah.
yeah, like I talked to Kevin Hearn, met him in person. Great guy. I met him and a bunch of people like Brandon Sanderson the same day, Patrick Rothfuss,
Nice.
Pierce Brown. I gotta
Yeah.
tell my Pierce, Michael J. Sullivan, Brian McKellen, all sorts of people. But I gotta tell my Pierce Brown story. I just realized this the other day. I
Yeah.
totally forgot about this. So Pierce Brown had just came out with Red Rising at Kevin Hearn's like event at the Poison Pen in Scottsdale, Arizona. This was probably like 10 years ago. So Way of Kings had just came out, and Name of the Wind had just came out, Red Rising just came out. So I get done with Brandon and Patrick, and I'm going this way, and I see Pierce Brown, and I'm like, oh, like, and I knew he was coming, and like thinking like, oh, this book sounds good. And he literally told me, he goes, "Oh yeah, I don't know if anybody's gonna buy it." And now here we are.
Yeah,
I say that all the time, and I don't know why I've never told that story till like the other day. I was talking to like another author, and I go, "What?" I talked to this author, and I saw which author was that? And I was like doing the map of the room,
yeah.
in my head.
You're
I was
like,
like, "That was Pierce
wait a
Brown."
minute.
But it's I don't know. The last 2 weeks, it's made me feel so much better, because I'm like, well, Pierce Brown, didn't think
Yeah,
that, but I was doing this, and I think it's because like I just saw the stuff with him, Joe, and Brandon. And I just laughed because I just thought, how funny is that?
yeah,
That's the quote. That's the
yeah.
best quote ever.
That's
Um,
yeah,
yeah.
amazing. Yeah,
So
he's sold a few. He's done
he sold
okay.
a few.
He's
Yeah, if you
done
guys
okay.
look him up, he sold a few.
That's
Yeah,
wild.
it's really funny. I totally agree though. Like community is so much better.
Yes.
That's why I was like, oh, if anybody like comes to me like, oh, can you just? I'm like, I feel bad when I'm like, no, because I'm like, I really just want to just get as much content out there and stuff. But at some point, it's just how it is. It's just hard to
Yeah,
get people.
right.
But yeah, I think I'm booked out if nobody backs out for quite a while now. I was trying to help a couple friends. I was like, I'll just do some bonus episodes. I was
Nice,
like,
nice, nice.
what are you gonna do? But yeah, I totally agree.
That said, though, I feel like anyone should, that doesn't. Well, even if you do have a community, if you're not part of this one, you need to go check out your Facebook group, right?
Oh yeah. Oh my God. We're trying so hard, man. I gotta say, so we got people in there, man. Like, so if you guys go to the Fanatics Facebook group, like, so these, I always leave the link down, in the description. Like, there are people like Paul Crud, Steven's in there. Like, there are just people like Andrew Johnson. Like, there are people in there that will just share everything.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's just so cool to have like a core group, right? Of like 10 or 15 people out of like 2,200 that you just know are going to share your stuff, and I keep telling people and I'm like, keep reminding people. And I feel like the last 2 weeks I've been really annoying on Facebook, but like, I just keep saying, feel free to put it in my group. I want to make sure that people are like, are posting in there because we have quite a few people that have private messaged me that are like, oh my God, like I saw Nicholas's post and it made me feel really good. And it's just so cool, and I do a lot of not as much shearing as I used to, like Mr. Miyagi, with the tree and stuff. There are some people where like I had a person 2 weeks ago. It's the only one in like almost 2 years, right? That to be like it's like the
That's
only time like it's ever really happened. But I was like shocked, and then I
yeah.
was kind of bummed. So I can't remember who brought it up. Like so, like I think it was like three people, three of those like 10, 15 people like contact me right away. They flagged the post. They're like, hey, and I'm like, yeah, I'm like, thank you, and it was nice. I mean, it was literally like we solved that problem within like literally they got in touch with me within 5 minutes, and I was like, oh,
Nice.
don't even worry about it. I was like, that person's gone. And like they
Gone.
were shocked. But I thought about I was like, what did I do to, whatever. And then I started thinking about it. I was like, you know what? I don't really think it's me. I'm like, the fact that everybody was like the people that noticed were so shocked, like told me like this is a really good, like community because that doesn't normally happen. And people were, really responsive right away. And then when
Yeah,
I deleted that person's, they went on to the original like two people's posts that the person blew up on. They were like, we're really encouraging and stuff. And then all of a sudden we got
that's
a
good.
bunch of eyes onto, like those posts, which was my
Yeah,
whole thing I
yeah,
was trying to do from the beginning. But yeah, but I felt better because I was like really thought about it because it's been almost 4 years since I started the group. And I
well,
was like, yeah, I don't really have to do it that often. You always
yeah,
get promoters and
yeah.
stuff. And I'm like,
No,
you
I
guys aren't
think
really promoting anything.
that's the right way to do it, man. Like, I mean, I think like groups are better when there's a no assholes rule. Yeah,
I'm like one and done. Like sometimes people they'll do like something borderline, like I'm usually like
sure.
cool. I don't like when people try to scam, right? So
Oh
the
yeah,
scammers and spammers, that's really where I'm
right.
saying like I'm
Yeah,
pretty, yeah, I'm like, you're
yeah,
done.
yeah.
Now I won't even let them in the group. AI assists is not assisting. It's just like letting these people in. And then it's
Right,
like holding authors and creators like
right.
you, like, oh, you're going to check these people.
Yeah,
Like I'll just check everybody at the door, but it'll let people in that shouldn't be there. And I try and
yeah.
like, do it right where it's I'm like no book promoters, no this or that. I'm like, I haven't really found one that actually like
Right,
promotes books.
right.
But yeah, but everybody else has been just amazing. So yeah, it's cool. Recently we just got to like 2,200 people. But it was like we got like 200 people within the last like I think it was like 6 weeks or something. So that
Yeah,
was like super, super cool. So I hope it keeps going,
nice.
but I love the people that are in there. Yeah, they've been really, really cool. So I want people to keep posting in there. So if you're out there, you
Yes,
got someone to post. We had new
definitely.
Kickstarters, we had new gamers, like all sorts of stuff. It was just like super, super cool. So yeah, that was awesome. Yeah.
Can I tell you a brief story about a scammer? Like,
Please, please. That's what we do.
so right. You know how like you'll get involved in different Discord communities, and sometimes someone will find you and they try to
Yep.
send you okay, so I got that
Yep.
from some dude that's like Lucas Lit Lab, and like it says somewhere on his thing that he like helps promote books, which is nonsense. Whatever. Anyway, he friended me. We had a very brief discussion. He's like, do you write? Yes. What genre? I said, sci-fi. What inspired you? Star Trek, whatever. He said, impressive. Have you previously had work? I'm just like, yes. And he says, are your work available on Amazon? Uh, what I told him, because I was figuring what was going on here, right? I was like, yeah, but I publish under the pen name Chuck Tingle. Have you ever seen Chuck Tingle stuff? Yeah, right. He's like, "Oh, kindly send me your book link." So I went on Amazon and looked Chuck Tingle. Can I tell you the one? It's a little,
It's
risque. Can I
after
tell you?
10. We're good. Yeah.
All right. So yeah, like I this one actually wasn't Chuck Tingle. This one was like Tuck Chingle or whatever, but it said the name of the book that I gave him the link to was Pounded in the Butt by Chuck Tingle's Hugo. He says, like, thanks for sharing, I'll check it out. And 6 minutes later, he's like, I was completely captivated by your storytelling, your ability to build blah 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 blah. And, like, I'm like, really? I'm like, thank you, man. I appreciate the great feedback. I'm also amazed you were able to read that in 6 minutes. And like, yeah. But then I didn't hear back from Lucas. I was really disappointed. And I wanted to keep going with that, but you gotta have fun with it, right?
Well, it's like it's so crazy at this point because like
Yeah,
I now they're getting lazy. I don't know if you've gotten these where they'll be like that, but now
yeah.
they're not even fishing. They're just like throwing bait at the wall or whatever, and it's
Mm.
like I had some where they're like, "Oh, I read your book," and I'm like, "Did you?
Yeah,
You read my book? Like,
yeah,
did you?" Like,
yeah,
I
yeah.
got two of those today. I was like, "That's interesting because I haven't published it yet." I'm like, "So did you go into my computer and like, I was like, did you look up? Did you break into Sarah Chorn's computer or Logan D. Irons or H.L.
Yeah.
Tinsley and get my my book from them?"
I
Like,
broke into all three. Yeah.
exactly, yeah. Holding your character Nathaniel
Yeah.
hostage. Like,
If you
it's
ever
just
want to see your character again, yeah, yeah,
like, do we really make? I talked to Herman about this privately. I was like, do we really make that much? Where like, I was like, I've just been spending money.
I know. Like, I mean,
I'm
I'm
like,
waiting for that latte money, you know?
yeah, yeah. One of these days when I
Yeah,
make that 4.99, my
yeah.
friend, I'm
It's
coming
it's
out
gonna be
buying
the
you a latte.
damn
Yeah,
latte we've ever had. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, definitely earned it, right? Like,
Right? Yeah,
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 it's just wild. Yeah, it's crazy, but it's hard because like it's just hard, right? Because sometimes it's like they seem like they're, and I've had people where I've
yeah,
like two or three times, right, where I'm like over it, and I'm like, yeah, whatever, and then they turn out to be real.
yeah.
Like,
I
it's
think I
like, well,
did that
cool.
once, and I was like, oh, my bad. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I like, sorry.
Yeah. I was like, I
Yeah,
thought you were a scammer. He goes, oh, and he like looks back, goes, ooh, I'm so sorry. He goes, I totally like, approached him. But he goes, I was just trying to like be book talk friends. And now him
yeah.
and I are like tight, but I
That's
was
funny.
like, yeah, sorry. But I think about that sometimes. Like, Steve Guglich helped me set up my like thumbnail, right? On
Hmm.
uh whatever, like YouTube or whatever. Or like the cover photo, whatever. So I have it on Twitter, and my best friend, he goes, you sent me a message. I go, oh yeah, I did,
Hmm.
about a book, whatever. He goes, on your podcast X account. I go, I did. I go, what's your point? He goes, I thought you were a scammer. He goes, with how the picture
Yeah.
came up,
Right,
because it
right.
shrinks it. And I'm like, I went back and looked, I was like, ooh, I was like, you changed that. I go, I look like a book promoter.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
It's really
funny.
funny. That's awesome.
I never, yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I guess we could
yeah.
never put like in our podcast descriptions like book promoter, right? That's yeah.
It's like, get this guy out of here.
Yeah. We'll never get guests again. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
That's funny.
That's funny. Yeah, that's hilarious. But so if we go back to your novella, like, in terms of like I'm always curious like where people like, like get their ideas. So,
Ooh,
in terms of this, in terms of Shattered, like where did this like idea actually come from?
okay. So when I started writing it, I had either just about or was like I was definitely deep into the Cradle series, right? And you know, uh obviously like I really enjoyed the progression fantasy. Will has done pretty well with progression fantasy.
He sold a few too. Yeah.
He's sold a few, yeah, maybe not like Pierce Brown numbers, but he's sold a few. He's sold a few. Um, yeah, and now I know that there's like a bunch of lit RPG and but still like it felt like kind of newish to me at the time that I started writing this like 3 years ago, and I think it was kind of like you said, it was new to me, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
Cool.
so I wanted to kind of add to that and like give it my own take, but I remember watching a review of the Cradle series from Mike's Book Reviews on YouTube.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right. So he read it. He said the first one was okay. He got to the second one, and there was an instance where like basically the main character's only way to kind of survive and progress was to advance in like in the progression system, right?
Yeah.
And he stopped at that point. He gave up, you know? And I was like, you know what? Like I see where you're coming from. I want to I want to do it and I want to have the progression system, but I do want to kind of like not have it that in your face that way, you know? And I want
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
introduce it a little bit slower, I think, that sort of thing. So kind of giving it my own take. And then
Oh, cool.
I've been wanting to do more like sci-fi stories anyway. I definitely have some ideas for some fantasy stuff down the road, but like I thought it'd be fun to do kind of this sort of thing, but with like a sci-fi spin.
Yeah, yeah.
So kind of putting those ideas together, and then like again, more recently, it's been man, like last year, Dungeon Crawler Carl has been my obsession. So like adding some of those like influences to it just a little
Oh,
bit
cool.
with like some, but more and more like one of the things that I'm like really trying to uh embody in my writing and bring forth is just like these really unique characters. Like, you think of like Orthos or Dross from Cradle, or of course in Dungeon Crawler Carl, you might not be that deep to meet some of these characters, but like Quasar is nuts. He's spoiler, but he ends up being Carl's lawyer, and like
Oh, that's cool.
you're right. He's just an interesting character. Um, but I mean, yeah, and the AI in the system of Dungeon Crawler Carl is its own character that's very like interesting and different, and they're all so unique and whatnot. And that's something that I'm just trying to like um bring forth in the stories, and it's just a combination of all these different kind of influences and inspirations, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I definitely could see though, like when I started to read book one for like Cradle,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, and then like the switch happened, right? And it kind of like I was reading it, but then when the switch happened, I was like, "Oh dang!" Like, and then I was like into it. But then yeah, like book
Yeah.
two, yeah, I could totally see where it was like I had friends that they're like, "Oh, you really like this?" I was like, "Yeah, if you just kind of go through this way." And I had a friend go back. He's like, "Yeah, I enjoyed it when I thought about it from like whatever I had said." But yeah, but that's where like before we got recording, like Dao Wong, like with his Thousand Lee, like I think that's why I like it, like it's not like the cultivation is definitely it's like really present, right? And
Yeah.
that's like the main point, but it's not necessarily it's like more about it literally is a thousand Lee. It's like the journey, right? It's like
Hmm.
these little individual steps. And I don't know if it's the martial arts in me or what, but like he just Dow just has me, man. Like, and I love the main character.
Yeah.
He's not like, oh, like not that I don't love Will's characters, but like I don't know, it's just it's different and it's like a different
Yeah.
shade, right?
Sure.
And
Sure.
I love both,
Yeah.
but for different reasons. So I totally get that because there's just different flavor, right? And I could
Yeah.
totally see where some people just, my friend wants a different flavor. So that's where I
Right.
referred him to like the first step. That was first book, and he's flown through it. He's like trying to catch up to me in book three.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like I have 8 books to finish right now, so he'll probably catch up to me. But yeah, I could totally see what you're saying there. So that's
Right.
really cool.
I think like some of the progression fantasies, I feel like the thing that they're beating you with is kind of the power fantasy, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's a
and
good way to put it.
and and they do it well and it's cool, but like if you want something more, then some of them aren't delivering that. I think part of what works so well for Dungeon Crawler Carl is that it does deliver that. You definitely are seeing like Carl and Donut get stronger, but there's so much more to it. There's so like the characters are just developing in really interesting ways. You're getting to know more and more about Carl as the series goes on, and like so that's something that again, like just trying to have in my writing. Like I want to have that power fantasy, but I want there to be like more also. And again, like I actually think like Will's story does well to have more. There's other things that go on in that story, but like,
It
but there are some in there where like it's really only about that power fantasy, you know?
feels like you're always trying to level up.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah. You're
yeah,
always trying to get stronger, and that's
yep,
like that is the thing that
that's
the
the key.
story is
Yeah,
about.
yep.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
yep, yep. Whereas like Dow's like before we got recording, I was saying like I don't know like if so I'm like I'm book three right now, so I'm halfway through, and it's like the first war, and it's like but like even like I love the themes that he uses like, and he's like okay like the main character he's like okay I'm stronger than most men
Hmm.
right now because I'm like a cultivator, right? I'm
Hmm.
like getting to this like a little bit higher level, right?
Sure.
He's like, I'm a martial artist, like I've learned how to fight from some of the best, whatever. But he like doesn't think he's a god. And he knows that he can be taken by like other people that are below his level of cultivation. But it's
Mm,
like the things he thinks of, I'm like, I don't know, like, like I wouldn't have thought to put those kind of questions into the character the way that Dow does, and
nice.
it's really kept me. It's there's like so many facets, and the character is young. He starts off at 16,
Nice.
and not young as in like it's he does some stupid stuff, right? We
Yeah.
all have. I did this
Yeah,
week,
sure. Sure.
uh, but it just makes the characters feel more real, right?
Sure.
And I don't know. I feel like I think that's why so many people really enjoy, his series and why he's like about to release whatever his book 12 or 13, whatever, 18, whatever it is, this Sunday. But it's like that, I think, being so deep like that, because it isn't just action, action, action. Like there's sometimes he's
Yeah.
going on side quests or whatever. But it's always relevant to whatever the theme is in that book and with the story. And this one is like how he's trying to avoid war. Well, the cover tells you he's in the war. And there are all these questions and stuff. So I totally
Yeah.
get it. Yeah, like
Yeah.
it's really nice when you find like a really good character, right? Where they're more than just trying to defeat the bad guy. So there's
Right.
something
Yeah.
there. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool. Do you mind telling us a little bit more about like some of the characters and the plot with no spoilers, that kind of thing?
Sure. No, yeah, yeah. You're talking about that character, and yeah. Again, I got to feel like a lot of the like lit RPG. I've read some of the more popular lit RPGs, like He Who Fights with Monsters and Primal Hunter.
I
These
like
are
Carpenter
these are
Dream.
yeah. Hunter couldn't quite do it for me because I feel like Jake is the main character, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I like. I mean, there were a lot of things that I liked, but with Jake early on, he ends up at, things go south, and they're kind of put in the situation where they're like they, there's incentives to fight other people, and he does end up killing other people, and he's like he kind of just shrugs it off, and I'm like, that is a little no, I don't know. Anyway, where in He Who Fights with Monsters, like the first time Jason kills someone, like a person, he's like, oh my God, like I just killed a person, it's like anyway, but both of those are, of course, like that isekai, I guess it's called. I'm only barely familiar with that term, but where you like you take people and drop them into this like alternate universe.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So and in both instances, they were just kind of like guys living a life in on Earth, and then now they're in this sort of like a video game type thing. But both of them, they're young, and of course, Lyndon in Cradle is young, right? In my
Yeah.
story, the main character Poe Tarj, he's older. He's like kind of late 30s. He's like kind of finishing kind of like a military career. He's a master sergeant in the Sorrento Royal Senate Guardians. So it's sort of it's like a military branch, but he's essentially like Secret Service for
That's cool.
someone that he's protecting. Yeah. Um, and so that's kind of that's where he's at with the story. He's protecting he used to protect Senator Ostolet that he refers to as Senator Blowhard, but recently he kind of got transferred to protecting High Senator Sarah Brand, who's like one of the few high senators that really is kind of the central executive governing body of the whole planet. Um, so it's like he's uh, being bodyguard Secret Service for like one of the presidents of the planet. Um,
Cool.
yeah, and he's trying to keep her safe. There's some action in like chapter one, then there's like a little bit of political intrigue that goes on in chapter two and chapter three, and he's sort of thinking like this could maybe be a problem. And everyone else is like, it's fine, don't even worry, it's never gonna be a problem. It's right? Um, and that's kind of where things kind of develop. And you can, again, this is a prelude novella and the title is Shattered, so maybe you can kind of draw some connections from those two things, right? But yeah, then he's as the series goes on, like Poe is the central character in these series. And he's developing and trying uh to gain some power, but also I will say in novel one, which I do want to release like shortly after the novella starts serializing, like I said, so I feel comfortable talking about that story a little bit too. But like, um, again, novella, Shattered, novel one, uh, he's trying to recover a little bit. He's a little bit of he's the reluctant hero in novel one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's so interesting because I had somebody ask me like for my first prequel novel, they're like, "Why didn't you just like clump everything together?" I'm like, "Because I really want you to go on that ride, right? Like
Yeah.
with the character, and the character, like my main character, was like telling me like this is how it is, and then I had this other character. She's like, "Hey, I'm not a secondary character. I'm like another POV," and I'm like, no, you're not. Like now we just changed the entire series.
Yeah, yeah,
She's like, to hell I am. And I was like, man,
yeah.
everybody's gonna love your character. Like, and they're similar in some ways, but I think if you look right, they're deeper things where they're different. So, but it's like interesting because I had people ask me, I'm like, no, I'm like, and like Sarah's like, and Holly were like, why did you not put her in the first novella? Because I left it
Yeah,
at
yeah.
like kind of like a little cliffhanger thing. And like you don't get to meet her. I'm like, nope, that's novella two. I was like, and they're like, why? I go, do you want to read novella two? They're like, yeah, you're not even done with novella one fix yet. I want to read novella two. I'm like, there you go,
That's why.
and
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
that's why. And but I think the same thing with like third novella and stuff, and kind of ends the arc. But for me, like it kind of worked doing three that way and dividing up the story, and it
yeah.
was like really succinct parts, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it felt really good.
Right.
And then I got 2 years roughly, like in between prequel trilogy, and then so we find out how he becomes a monster hunter, and then we go to book one, right? But I'm leaving room, because I don't want to explain like we know how the world works, powers and stuff like that. Essentially, for this, I just want to get into it, right? Like Harry
Hmm.
Dresden and the first book and stuff. Maybe not the first book, maybe the third book, but it leaves some room, right? So I'm
Yeah.
curious, like how did you pick like your timeline,
Yeah.
in terms of between prequel novella and
Sure.
book one? Like how much downtime does he get? Like that kind of thing. How did you decide that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So when I first started writing like the stories, I started with like novel one, right? And so that was going to be like the starting point. But as I was kind of going through and going further, it, part of it was, well, there's so much that happens before, and like I do kind of want
Mhm.
to. Some of it's going to be revealed in novel one, but like not necessarily all of it. There's like in the way that he gets where he is at the beginning of that is you know there's is dramatic. And then, to be perfectly honest, also some of my friends were putting out novellas, and I'm like, well, I want to do a novella too. I think it'd be like a nice entry point too. And I am trying to write the novella also, and I have written the novella in a way where it can either be like a book zero or it could be a book 1.5, right?
I think that's
Um,
important. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, because I do want either like the first novel or the novella to be viable entry points into the series. But if you read it as like the novella as a book 1.5, it's going to provide so much more context as we get to book two. Um, so yeah, there's not a whole lot of downtime between the events at the end of Shattered and then the beginning of like of novel. There's some, but it's not a lot. It's more that like kind of there are again like events at the end and it does like kind of wrap up that story, but I do think that readers are going to be like wanting to go read more and see where things are going and see what's going on with Poe and then we're going to get dropped into like this next part of the story and we're going to see like where Poe's at and see how he's feeling about things and it's not great. But yeah, I think it works and it's a fun ride that way.
So I'm glad you said that last thing. It works. So I
Yeah.
just want to point this out to the audience. So I was trying so hard to for me personally, because I always call it a Journeyman's podcast, right? So we're kind of both in the same like similar spot. I always say 1 to 3 is pretty much Journeyman's. After that, usually people have a little bit more idea what they're doing.
Sure.
Generally speaking, right? In my
Yeah.
experience with people, but it's interesting. I kept trying to like do that. I was like, I want what you just said. I was like, I want to do this, and it just wasn't working though. And I
Yeah.
was like, why is this not working? And I had to like literally sit down and analyze. And I'm like, I don't really want to tell personally I want to tell the beginning story before everything, but I'm like the actual book one for me is like this is the story. And then
Yeah.
I was like, I had a cool story of mine and stuff, but then once I moved my focus on not trying to tell the prequel trilogy in part of book one and starting right when where my character is like level one, essentially, I'm gonna do like level three for him. But it's like then I'd like I don't know, it just I was like my friend and I were talking, he's like, just move your timeline a little bit. Like if you
Yeah.
wanna write that, and the character kept telling me, I want to tell you how this began. And I'm like, but if that's here, he's like, no. He's like, all this other stuff happened. So for
Right.
me, it didn't work, right? So I just want to
Right.
point out, like for you, that totally worked. Me, didn't work at all. So for the audience, you might find that you have a great idea. You might just need to move your timeline a little bit or think of it in, just a little bit different way because everybody's different. All characters are different. All stories are different at the end of the day. So what works for Nicholas doesn't necessarily work for me, might not work for you. Might be another character or book might work, perfectly.
Mm.
So I just
Right.
wanted to point that out real fast. But I think that's really cool because, yeah, for a really awesome title like Shattered, I would expect like, having to pick up the glass pretty quick and get right into, the
Yeah.
story. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Um, so in terms of, I know we don't want to do spoilers or anything, but in terms of, Poe and his story, like, is he, so I assume he's going to be the main POV. Do you have any other POVs that you can talk about or
Yeah, sure.
spoil
Yeah.
anything?
So in Shattered, yeah, there is multiple POVs. There's eventually multiple POVs in the first novel, but it's definitely like Poe's story in that first novel. But in Shattered, there's multiple POVs. We're starting out in Poe's POV. Let me think. There's 9 chapters. A lot of them are Poe's POV, but we are getting one of them is kind of like the bad guy's POV, you know? We did that for a chapter to kind of talk about what they're doing and where they're coming from. That chapter I originally wrote like just as with the intention of it being part of the story, but I wrote it as like kind of a standalone short story.
Oh,
And
cool.
like that one feels pretty solid. And I've gotten like different feedback from people on everything, and like I'm like, like how good does it feel, right? When people are like actually vibing
Yeah.
with things. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so there's that one, the bad guy chapter. There's another where there's another person. His name is Kelly Aegis, and like I do have like quite a few little Tuckerizations. So that one's like a little bit of a Tuckerization from Bo Kelly.
That's
So
awesome.
right, Kelly Aegis, he's like this planetary defense force leader. So again, like Poe is with the Royal Senate Guardians. He's kind of like Secret Service, but also, I mean, again, it's like a military branch, but he's like Secret Service. This other guy is like on the orbital defense platform as things are happening, you know? So we're kind of following his POV. That whole chapter was added after a beta reader was like, listen, you're going from the bad guy chapter to this other chapter, and there's a bunch of stuff that's happening in between, and we get it, but I want to see it, you know?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
that was Brian Wilson off
Oh,
of
nice.
yeah, yeah. He had read it and had some great feedback, and he's a fan of the story, which is great, you know.
Yeah.
Um but he was like, man, I really want to see that. So I added that chapter in. And I think that one again, like I'm happy with it. So that's another POV. And then the high senator that Poe is guarding, Sarah Brand. She's again like kind of one of the essentially like one of the multiple presidents of the planet. She gets a POV chapter, and we're sort of seeing things from her perspective, where things are not going super great at this particular moment, right? And she's trying to deal with it and figure out how to fix them and that sort of thing. And yeah, so and there's one other POV in there, and it's all kind of coming together. We're just seeing things from different points of view, and as things are happening, yeah, and yeah, there's a lot going on. It is kind of like there's a fair few named characters for a relatively short novella, but I've tried to make it so like at least now I've tried to make it where with each chapter there's only like three or four named characters that are really being introduced to like with each chapter, and then a fair few of the characters are being like carried through. There's this one character too that I've like added in revisions named Machina Grahalis, and she's like the Senate archivist, and she, you know, again trying to add some like characters that have personality. She has like a lot of sass, and like, and she also has like zero radio discipline, so like she'll be like you just inserting things at times that are like not necessarily appropriate, you know. Yeah, yeah. So it's good fun. It's good fun. And then yeah, yeah, I'm having fun. Oh, but like in talking about characters, another I have another character later on. And again, like it's fun when you find like just the little thing that you're like, that's what I've been missing with that character,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, 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 yeah.
Right? So this one character that we'll get to see in the novel, her name is Connie, and yeah, I just couldn't quite like find something that I really liked about like I mean, I liked her character, but she didn't feel unique enough for me, right?
Yeah, it takes a
But
while sometimes. Yeah.
yes, yes. Then I finally, so a friend of mine from the Break-ins again, this like indie group and there's guys and girls from all over the world. Friend of mine from Australia says like, we're not here to fuck spiders. I'm like, what are you talking about, dude? What does that mean, right? And
I
apparently
get
that's
it
like
though.
it's a relatively like common expression in Australia where they're not there to screw around, right?
Yeah,
That's what it means, right? But like I'm like that's what I've been missing. That's what I want this character to have. Is like every once in a while she's gonna say these things that are just like so off the wall, and a lot of them are gonna be kind of like Australian idiomatic
idioms. Yeah,
expressions. Yeah, yeah. I
that's
think
awesome.
like yeah, as it goes on, I might kind of draw other like weird idiomatic expressions from other cultures that, especially ones that don't translate well, you know, where you like do
Yeah,
the
yeah,
direct
yeah.
translation and it's like, what is it, you know? But
Well, that makes sense if you're from different parts of the planet or
right?
whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
So yeah, and like, and that just made that character feel so much more vibrant and unique and interesting. So I'm looking forward to readers getting to meet that character.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I had three characters. Don't do this, guys. So for the longest time, I'm not a Marine, but my character is an ex-Marine. He's a veteran.
yeah,
So in novella, prequel novella one, we're with the unit, right?
sure.
Not a unit, we're with the squad. I did not add enough characters. So
Oh,
I went on to Canva and for myself, AI generated like their characters, made little coins, and the DM in me, I was like, 12 guys is a lot. And then my main character. So, and then I have like another character who's like son like gets taken and by supernatural forces or they don't know, they're like trying to find him. So they but like so I'm like this is a lot of characters. So, I had to figure out right like in different chapters like when they're in the action scenes in particular, right? Like how to split them up and the only way I could do that was by like a map. So I have like a DM version of, you know what I mean? Like there's
yeah,
just too
yeah,
many guys. And I was like, okay, if they're pointing here and these guys are
yeah,
here, I was like, I had to like do the battles and stuff. I have
yeah,
to redo
yeah,
the final battle, which is like it was one of them where I'm like, oh, now I added these guys, but I was just like,
yeah,
but one guy, I'm like, it's so funny that you mentioned that because I had the same thing. I was like, oh, I have 12 guys
yeah.
that I need to make unique. I got
Mm,
the best friend, trope or whatever. I
yeah.
got, and he's like kind of religious and stuff. I had a friend that was like him, who's his last name was like Velasquez, and Christian was so funny. So like before you take a test or something, be like, take that little cross his mama gave him, and be like, and, and I'm like, did you study? He goes, no, it's up to God now. And it was just like things like that, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I had a friend that was like, I worked at a restaurant with, oh my God, I love the guy. But it was like, those guys that like, they're like, yeah, I played in college. And you're like, yeah, D3, like,
yeah, yeah,
and so one of the guys for some reason, this guy that I used to work with, Terry, like popped in my head. And like, anytime we went and played volleyball, like sand
yeah,
volleyball or beach volleyball, he had his little knee brace on, wherever even if he was feeling fine, he had to let us know, right? that he
Yeah.
got injured and that's why he didn't make it to the show, you know.
You're
So I
right.
added
Yeah.
that for a guy where he's like, oh, he's always complaining, right, about his old like baseball injury or whatever. And
Hmm.
and it made it so real. So I sent it to a friend that part, and he goes, "Oh my God!" He goes, "I know that guy."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I was like, "That's what I was looking for." So
Yep.
sometimes it takes a
Yep.
while, to yeah, to figure out like what their shtick is, or to yeah.
Yeah.
I had somebody that made their like the person's so annoying, and I'm like, who is this person? And he
Mhm.
goes, I was thinking of Patrice from How I Met Your Mother. Just like annoying the hell out of Robin. And he goes, this character is annoying, right? I'm like, so annoying. He's like, good. I nailed it. I was like, you definitely
Yeah.
did. I was like,
Yeah.
at first I was like, is this terrible writing? I was like, no, it's really great writing. So
Yeah,
it took a
yeah,
little
right.
bit.
I hate this character, but I'm supposed to hate the. Yeah, yeah. Right,
Yeah.
right,
It's so funny. It's like, yeah, it's like I get why people hate Johnny Lawrence after, the
right.
first Karate Kid William Zachary did a great job. But that's awesome. I'm happy to hear that. I can't wait to see the idioms that
Oh,
you
yeah, yeah,
use.
yeah.
I think
So
for most people you could just use Australian ones, right? And not even change them.
there are definitely some Australian ones because I was bugging them. I was like, I need more. Hit me with more, and they were like, I don't think they're ready for the hoon or whatever. And I'm like, what are you talking? Anyway, I've done the same thing where there was like a fight scene, and I had to like kind of really map it out because like at first I was like, oh, there's gonna be a whole bunch of dudes, and it's gonna make perfect sense. And then like reader feedback, it was like, what are you talking about? Like, and who was this guy that showed up like random? I'm like, noted, noted. Let's tone it down. Let's pay attention where they are. Like, okay. But and then talking about kind of basing characters on like people or whatever. So Poe Taj is very heavily inspired from a guy that way back years ago I used to play video games with quite a bit.
Oh, that's
His like
cool.
his online handle was Poe or Poe, but we'd call him Poe sometimes. And he was kind of similar to some of your characters. He was a Marine Corps vet,
Oh,
Um,
that's cool.
he fought in Somalia, but then he got out and was mostly just playing video games and whatever. But he
Good for
was,
him.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, he was enjoying that. He
Yeah.
was kind of a dick at times, but he was our dick, And if you
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
if
I
you
get
messed with us, like, forget it. He was on you. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, so it was, yeah. I think the Poe in my story isn't like too much of a dick, but he's got personality, And like I said, like he calls his former ward, Senator Ocelot, he calls him Senator Blowhard, So yeah,
Yeah. That's like when like the Reacher TV show came out. I saw the first episode. I was like, oh. I was like, we got some character here,
yeah,
Sometimes he's a dick, but it's like
sure,
but he feels real, right? Like
yeah,
he
yeah,
has his real empathetic moments, he has his dick moments, and he even says at one point, he's like, I'm just kind of being an a-hole today, He's like, sorry, is what, and other times, it's like, kind of is what it is. But it's
yeah,
like if
yeah,
somebody like that, right? So it's real
yeah,
to you.
right,
Yeah,
right.
I totally get that. Yeah, we all had that friend, right, in the Halo LAN party group that
Yes, yes, yes.
all
Oh
I could
man.
think of. That's awesome. I know we're winding down on time here, but I gotta ask this before we
Sure.
get done. So in terms of because when you're talking about the book and like novella and then book one in particular,
Yeah.
so I'm curious at like kind of if it doesn't spoil anything, like where the progression's going to kind of come in. Is that going to be more of like a physical thing or something else, if that makes sense?
Yeah, good question. Uh
It's a hard
uh
question to not spoil if it's
it I so I yeah, I'm trying I have to think about how much to reveal. I will
yeah,
say
yeah.
that it is physical and more. That's what I'll
Okay.
say.
Perfect.
And Shattered is very much explaining where that comes from, and then the book series is running with it. And even and Shattered is also explaining a little bit why Poe is going to progress later, but he doesn't really like know shit about how it's supposed to work or whatever. And again, Shattered is going to explain like how that comes to be and why that comes to be and whatever, and then the rest is figuring out like how to deal with it and how do you get stronger and there's um his abilities are going to come with I just trying to think of like how I want to.
It was a hard
I'm gonna
question to ask, but
so this might be a little bit spoilery, but I want to share this. So if you don't want the spoilers, like stick your fingers in your ears for a minute. But like if you want to hear this, great. Because so when he gets the ability, I'm gonna do this and I'll let you know when it could, but when he gets the abilities, basically it's it will also come with a voice in his head, and
oh, that's cool.
and the voice in his head also has like a voice in its head, sort of like it can't like it has some the voice in the head is kind of like the mentor trope, right? And
Oh,
then
that's cool.
the other voice is sort of like emotional outbursts that are like uncontrolled, I'm trying to use that for like a lot of the humor that gets inserted, and but at the same time he's sort of trying to figure out how to get stronger and like sort of listen to this unreliable mentor that's in his head that's speaking to him, as there's also like these emotional outbursts that are like, and all of it's happening in his head. And so when it first starts he's like, I think I'm crazy. I'm pretty sure I'm crazy, like, but then he starts to understand like what it is, and get a sense that this maybe could be a good thing, and that sort of thing. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And like when those characters get introduced, I think that's when that I really am looking forward to people meeting those characters.
Yeah. Oh, that's really interesting. Sorry, that was a hard question. I was like, how do I pose this
No, no, no.
question?
I'm glad you did.
Like,
Like I had to think about it a little bit, but like I feel good about that answer. And again, like it's up to the listeners about the how much spoilers they want to get there.
yeah, I mean, you guys gotta pay attention. Should be watching and
Right.
really write down notes. Like,
Honestly, like I mean, like and a lot of that is occurring relatively early in that novel. So like yeah.
that's cool. Well, I know I'm like ready to go for it. So that sounds awesome. You have me like this is why I do interviews. People are like, "Hey, sure, you're still going to do this?" Well, yeah, I'm gonna do interviews because I don't know why I didn't think more because I was thinking about like science fiction, like what would science fiction level like for progression be like, and
Mhm.
with one of my fantasy series, like I have like that, and I kind of want to do like the Mistborn thing or whatever, where it's like and then Allo of Law, where then you like skip 2,000 years, and then
Yeah, yeah,
it's like sci-fi, right? But it's like
yeah.
Warhammer, where you have
Warhammer.
like yeah,
Okay.
like a sci-fi fantasy, and
Yeah.
I'm always thinking
Yeah.
about like okay, I would do the level progression then,
Yes.
really with the sci-fi, and you would get a lot of it. I feel it would translate right over because I could use the old
Yeah.
magic system, just add some science and tech to it, and it would just be super cool.
Love it.
So I'm interested to see what you do because I'm always thinking about kind of
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
something similar to that, but that's really cool.
Nice.
Before we head out, can you just give us a hint maybe at when we can expect Shattered to be released?
Well, what I'm gonna say, well, I'll tell. I actually, I'll spill some beans here on the show. Like, well, what I'm gonna say on like social media, because like I only have a limited amount of, and I don't want my message to be very confusing. But like, what I will say there is just that I'm going to be doing a cover reveal on July 10th, and that's true. What I'm gonna say to you, dear listener, that I have your attention in a little bit of time. I'm going to start serializing around that time also the novel, and I will do the cover reveal of the novella on July 10th. But surprise, that's actually when I'm going to release the book also. And for that initial weekend, it's going to be free. So, like July 10th and like a couple days after that, it will be free. That'll be the time to get it. It's going to be on my Patreon. You can download it from the Patreon, as I'll have it in the ebook format, and be available for free. And then if you like it and you want to read more, then you can like subscribe a little bit, and be able to, and it'll be not very expensive, and you'll be able to keep reading into the next story. That's the plan. That's the goal. That, again, I want to, I'm not necessarily going to say all of that on like social media all the time, because one, I, you can only put so much in a tweet, right? And I want to
Yeah,
have like a
yeah,
very simple message and be like, hey, cover reveal. And by the way, surprise, the book came out. But two, like, I do think it'll be fun that like you and I, dear listener, that know a little bit, you're gonna know that like, oh, actually, the next novel is already available. But like on social media, I'm gonna be like, hey, I got a secret, but only people that have read Shattered know it. And you'll be in on the secret with me, but other people won't. So yeah, that's what I'm shooting for.
that's super cool. Well, I look forward to that. So I'm gonna have to, and I love novellas because I can get to them nice and quick and so,
Yep.
and go through everything else. But I'm really excited about this, and I'm excited for you, but I'm also really excited as a reader too. Really, I'm really anxious to see, based off of our conversations, what like your take is on, these things we talked about. But
Yeah.
I always love like new characters, worlds, things like that. So.
Yeah.
It's always fun to go on that ride with an author like right from the start, that kind of thing.
I'm
So it's really cool.
so amped to share all this with folks. I've been working on
Yeah.
this like these story ideas for at least like 2 years now,
Yeah.
like hey, yeah, I am ready to start sharing it with folks. And I think that like what's fun about the serializing too, I was talking with another author that's serialized, and they were talking about how, you know, sure, some people aren't going to like it. That happens every time, right? But
Yeah.
eventually you
Yeah.
kind of get to a point with your audience where like this, the people that are still reading your serialized stuff are there because they like it. And then it's just
Yeah.
people that are like they're always responding with like, oh, I like this part, and like, I'm a sucker for positive feedback. I can't wait for that.
I feel you there.
Yeah.
Well, anything I can do, Nicholas, to help, between now and then, just let me know, and we'll do whatever we can to help you out, before, during, and after. I just want to remind our audience again, if you're just joining us, some people come to the end 'cause they know the good stuff's at the end, and then they can go back or just go to your guys' stuff. That's fine. That's totally cool. Nicholas's links can be found in the description below. You can check out his podcast, book links, social links, all those things. But if you're going to his podcast, please don't forget to subscribe. And then, like you said, check out his Patreon, those kind of things. So all those links will be there. But other than that, Nicholas, I really appreciate, like I said, you being flexible. I knew it was gonna be a good chat. I just wanted to be able to actually get it in with our schedules. So I'm so happy that this worked out. I'll just send you a release date again for this episode, just as like a reminder. And yeah, we'll get you all situated. But other than that, my friend, I hope you have a great rest of the evening and happy writing.
Thank you, man. Daniel, thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate like the
Anytime.
support, appreciate talking with you, and it's been an absolute blast talking with you and getting to talk about this book. I'm so happy to share it with you and with everyone else.
And I just totally remember because you're going to be a little further out, with the release. If you want to do launch or anything or whatever, like a live or something like that, just let me know because after June 12th, my schedule opens up a lot better.
Cool, cool.
Only saying that to my friends. But yeah, so if you want to do something like that, you can set something up, just let me know and we can help you out any way we can.
Appreciate it, man.
Cool.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, buddy. I'll talk to you later on social media, my friend. Have a good rest of the night.
See ya.
See you.